24/7, 365. The fantasy season never dies. Welcome to Every Day is Draft Day. Presented by Champions Round.
Awesome. So a little bit of breaking news, just something for me, an Eagles fan. Jalen Reagor got traded just now to the Minnesota Vikings for a 2023 7th and a 2024 4th round pick.
Wow. So the Vikings are going to have Justin Jefferson and Reagor?
Jalen Reagor.
I love the pettiness. They sent J.J. Arcega-Whiteside to go play with DK Metcalf and Jalen Reagor to go play with Justin Jefferson.
It's only his draft nemesis.
Right.
So Dan, why don't you take like 2 minutes and break down the trade from both sides so that we can post this later?
All right. So for the Vikings side, it's more receiver depth. I mean, they obviously have a great trio of receivers with Thielen, Jefferson, and Osborne. But behind that, it's really not that deep. I think they only kept 5 wide receivers on their final roster for their 53. So to get him for basically a 7th and then a 4th in 2 years is a cheap way to see if he still has anything going for him. He's only 23 years old. He is a former first-round pick. He really just needed to change the scenery. He was never going to do it in Philly. So I think that with the new offense that Minnesota is operating in, I think that's a really good fit for him. And for the Eagles, it's just really getting anything for him was a win. I think getting a 7th and a 4th was a little bit more than even I expected to get from him. I expected just a conditional 7th, to be honest. And getting, his guaranteed salary off the books, well, not major. It's still a little bit more help coming up for next year when we're going to need to re-sign a couple of players. So I think it's really a win-win for both. I think Reagor needed the change of scenery, and the Eagles wanted the cap space and the roster spot, which they can now use for someone they might want to sign in free agency.
Howie doesn't stop dealing. I guess my question is, who do you think ends up as the third receiver on the Vikings at this point? Do you think it's Osborne, who still has the number 3 role, or do you think that Reagor's going to bump him out at some point?
No, I think it's still Osborne. I think Osborne has gotten such glowing reviews in camp from all the coaching staff and all the sources that I've seen. He's, I think that with Adam Thielen coming to the end of his career, I think Osborne eventually, gets elevated to that number 2 role. Maybe not this year, but probably in the near future. And, maybe Reagor doesn't really warrant anything with the Vikings, but if he turns into maybe even a solid number 3 for them for the future, then that'd be a win for them. But I think for this year, at least, it's still going to be Jefferson, Thielen, and Osborne with Reagor coming in as the number 4 while he learns the offense.
Got it.
How many times have we seen like a bust receiver, like a first round, maybe even second round, just not work out with his first team, gets traded to a different team, and does work out? We just don't see that too often. If I'm Minnesota fans, I'd be kind of a little bit upset about this, giving up a 4th round pick. The 7th is like whatever, but a 4th, I mean that's got some value there. I don't know if that's worth a 4th round pick. I mean, what receivers have done anything that were busts in their first go round? Anyone? I mean, I can't really think of one.
Yeah, it took Cordell Patterson like 8 years to figure it out. Yeah. So no,
yeah, but at least he's a special teams player, and he was on teams and was participating and doing something. But
I mean, Reagor isn't quite as bad as guys like Corey Coleman you're thinking of, right? Like, it's not quite that bad. He did put up some stats.
Nikhil Harry.
Right? But like
John Ross.
I would say Rager's better than all of those guys, and I hate Reagor, but he's produced more. He's produced more than all of those guys.
Well, maybe Kevin O'Connell has something that he sees in him for some reason, but I don't know. I would be a little bit unhappy with this decision if I were a Minnesota fan.
I mean, Reagor's whole thing, the biggest issue, 1, he's in Philly with the most ruthless fans ever. 2, when the 2020 draft happens and the Vikings are laughing that the Eagles passed on Justin Jefferson, like that video didn't do him any help. And then the third is like you get drafted 1 pick before, probably the best or second best wide receiver in the NFL. It's so hard, but I wouldn't say that Reagor is as big a bust as some of the other guys that we're talking about here. Like, I still think that he could have a legitimate future, but I do think he's probably the wide receiver for Minnesota.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I still like Osborne.
Yeah. So a little update. It's a conditional 4th. It turns into a 5th if certain statistical benchmarks aren't met. So it's probably a 5th and a 7th instead of a 4th and a 7th. Which is still more than I thought.
I like Dan's like, he's definitely not going to do anything there. Fuck him.
He's not. No, he's not. He sucks. What's the worst part about it is that the coaching staff is the people that wanted Reagor. The scouting staff of the Eagles actually preferred Jefferson over Reagor, but because Roseman wanted Doug Peterson to be happy, he chose Reagor over Jefferson. That's the rumor mill in Philly. So the scouting department is probably throwing their hands up right now, like, why didn't you just listen to us and pick Jefferson?